I'm Sharon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought it'd be nice to take a moment to chat about why I love music theory so much, because oftentimes it's a shame really that music theory is often seen as a chore that you've kind of, I've got to do this so that I can move on to my grade 6 whatever, and it's a shame because if we can learn to love the subject in its own right, there's a lot of joy to be found there, I find. First and foremost, I suppose the reason I love music theory is just a personality trait. I'm one of those people who's always happier just sitting quietly with a pencil in a hand. I prefer academic study really. I'm a writer, so I sit quietly writing, and even if I'm doing recreational activities, I'm quite happy just sitting quietly, doing a bit of sewing or doing a bit of reading, and so it perhaps suits my personality. But that's only perhaps the start, and I think the reason that I absolutely love music theory, it's probably because I'm really nosy actually. I really love to sort of peel behind the layers of what was going on in the composer's mind, and you'll be listening to a piece of music and you'll think, oh, that's really nice, that's so lovely. I mean, for example, Eine, kleine, Nachtmusik, this score here, bits of it, some beautiful chords and harmonies, or you're listening to a really crunchy harmony, and you think that's really nice. Well, why is it really nice? What is it about that that's so appealing? And then if we study our music theory, it gives us the words to articulate why we enjoy something and what makes something work and what makes something sound nice as well. But also it's like a bit of an archeological excavation project, because you can't help but get involved in the composer's life and the social and political sort of world that he was living or she was living in at the time. Every composer is naturally of their time. You can't imagine Mozart, for example, with Eine, kleine, Nachtmusik, writing some dissonant, fragmented 20th century sounding piece. It was very much of his time. And so the genius shows through despite or because of the social context. For example, as you get into looking at a composer's works, for example, Thomas Tallis, he was sort of kind of Elizabethan time, and he was very much a composer of his time, because you can see how his compositions change depending upon the political climate. So between Catholicism and Protestantism, he starts off writing glorious Latin mass, but then if he does that anymore because of the politics, he's going to get beheaded. So now he writes very plain music in the vernacular, and then he can go back to Catholic Latin liturgy and so on. And so he's very much of his time. And more recently, perhaps if we think of composers like Shostakovich, it's impossible to listen to their works without being acutely aware of the political climate that they were composing under. For example, the Leningrad Symphony, the awful invasion and siege of Leningrad, and also his compositions change because of the approval or disapproval of the state at that time. And so it's really great to get behind the layers, and also it's a fascinating journey looking at the history of how music has developed and how our understanding of music has developed. I mean, how did we get from those very first sort of stages of trying to convey musical notation, where it was just like a hand with notation markings on? That was in the 15th century, I think the 1400s. Of course, it wasn't codified, it wasn't a universal language then, it hadn't progressed, and I think every culture would have had its own little notation system perhaps, but we went from that basic hand symbol, which couldn't have conveyed vast amounts of music, to then moving on to the most beautiful manuscripts that were illuminated. They're a work of art in their own right, they're just so beautiful. Right the way through to massive printed works that we've got now, great big opera scores, and bear in mind this is a miniature, the Eulenberg miniature scores. Here's a Rachmaninoff overture there. And all we have to do is open the pages and we can start to see in the composer's mind and see what he was up to. And so, of course, looking at the Eine, kleine Nachtmusik that we mentioned earlier, of course Mozart was composing in the forms and structures of his time. So we begin in a very classical sonata form, but the composer's personality still seeps through, and we can look at them and we can figure out why things sound the way they do. And it just fascinates me to really peel back the layers, and it's an extra joy when we get to see the composer's handwriting and you can see the flurry of creativity as they're scribbling and scratching away. I'm jolly grateful that we don't have to read those now. I mean, there's a extract of Elgar's manuscript and it's absolutely shocking. He was obviously sketching out ideas, and thank goodness we don't have to read those. Or the one of Mozart, it's just so fascinating to think that we can see the genius at work just in his handwriting as well. And I absolutely love getting to grips with all the nuts and bolts of every basic form that holds every piece of music together. And it's really, grade 1 is literally where it starts. That's where the journey begins, and we start to see, no matter how basic it is, just drawing a single crotchet in the treble clef. It's the same treble clef that Mozart uses, it's the same crotchet that Mozart uses, or name the composer of your choice. This is where it starts, and we start on this journey and we go further and further down, and the more we look into things, the more we're able to learn what's going on in the music that we love so much, and the more we're able to articulate why things please us, why we like certain things, why we don't like certain things as well. And the journey is never ending. There's always something new to learn, and thank goodness for that. So I do hope that I can encourage you to really dig in and just get to grips with music theory, but enjoy it as well. It's not a chore that just has to be done. It's a joy to be able to dive in and get to grips with this topic. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.